This is why I use home automation. Not for mood lighting or clever voice commands, but for quiet protection when I'm not paying attention. That alert? Just a demo. But I've got sensors like this in all the places that matter. So yeah, those little leak sensors are great, and they've already saved me once or twice, like when the sump pump fails to run and the sump fills up. Not everybody's familiar with sump pumps, so let me explain. In the northeastern United States, many houses have basements, and during the wetter months, like April, we get a lot of rain. And when the water table rises up to a certain level, the water will come into your basement. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So the way they handle that is, at least in my home, there's a trench that goes all the way around the edges of the basement floor. And they put gravel in it. It's called a French drain. And any water that comes into the basement is caught in that drain, and it's routed around the perimeter to a pit in the far corner called a sump. And we've got a pump in there with a little flippy arm with a float on it, just like the one inside your toilet. And that float turns the switch on that causes the pump to start to pump the bilges overboard. And if that pump doesn't run, well, you find out about it in a few hours when the water level starts rising. So there's really two dangers with a sump pump. Problem number one, the pump doesn't start. Problem number two, the pump doesn't stop. I already took care of problem number one using my little leak sensors, and I solved that years ago. But last week, I ran into the second problem. I was in here in my basement office, and I just finished doing my taxes. I was all excited and ready to go upstairs and bask in the glory of the completed tax return status and tell my wife and everything. And I opened my office door, and I heard this gurgling sound. It was unfamiliar. What's that? And I could hear the rumble of the sump pump underneath, but it had a different note to it. And I was thinking, something's wrong. And it didn't shut off. Normally, the pump was shut off after a minute or two. But I knew this was on for good. They just kept running and running. And I went into the far corner, and I looked into that dark pit. And there it was. The pump was running, and it was running hot. And there was a little bit of water in the bottom that was just bubbling as the pump was just churning it. And so I reached in, and I gave the pump a quick shake. The float kind of jostled itself and everything shut off, and I was happy. But I knew that I couldn't leave it be. I had to solve this problem. Let me tell you why. About 8 years ago, I got a call while I was at work, and it was the alarm monitoring company that we use at our church. And they said, "We got a fire signal from your church, and emergency services are on their way." Well, that's no good. So I hopped in my car and drove out to the church and was met with a whole bunch of first responders. There were fire trucks, there were police cars, and they had actually had to force open the basement door to get down in there. And the problem was the basement was filled with smoke. And guess what caused all that smoke? It was a sump pump that did the same thing that mine did, except it kept running all week long until it burned itself up. And fortunately, there was no fire. It didn't do anything besides fill the building with smoke. And the only trouble we had because of it was getting a door fixed and dealing with a whole bunch of red tape to get the power turned back on for the building. But I learned a lesson that day. Sump pumps can't run 24 hours a day. They'll burn up. And so there I stood next to my sump pump that had just done the very same thing. It had run nonstop. And I thought, what am I going to do? I have to come up with a way where I can protect myself against this pump running in case the float gets stuck. Because little bits of stuff fall in there and the float can get caught on it, or it can get stuck against the side. The pump moves when it starts, things like that. And I was thinking about home automation. There has to be a way where I can use home automation to detect the pump running and shut it off. There's several platforms out there that can do what I needed. That is to monitor the power draw, shut off the pump, send me a notification. But it's my understanding that some of the more popular systems, such as Google Home and Amazon Alexa, work at a much higher level, and they aren't going to allow you the same kind of in-the-weeds, fine-grained control that you would need to do what I did. With that said, there's many other options, and the one I use is Home Assistant, and it is an open source product. It's really inexpensive. It's free if you've got a Raspberry Pi kicking around, and you can do great things like this. So let's get to it. This is a Zigbee switched outlet. You can control these from any home automation, something like Alexa or even like Philips Hue. They all will allow you to turn on and turn off these switched outlets. An outlet like this, it's got logic inside, it's got a relay, it has little monitors and stuff in it, but the main reason they exist is so that you can have your home automation turn on or turn off a lamp, for example. I use one of these on my display cabinet where I keep my steam engines and my cameras. They provide other features besides just the ability to turn them off and on. The home automation can look at monitors these provide, such as instant power delivery, how much power is being delivered right now, and overall energy consumption, and whether it's turned off or turned on. And those are the underpinnings of what I needed to know. I needed to look at the instant power consumption. If it goes above a certain level, a certain threshold, then start doing something. And that something will be tell this to shut off, and then eventually tell it to turn back on. Zigbee is like Bluetooth for the home. It is a very low power radio protocol. And you have a little adapter, a little dongle that goes into your home automation, and it communicates with all these little devices. And the cool thing is Zigbee devices talk to each other. They pass the signal along. So even if you've got a light bulb, a Philips Hue light bulb that's way up in the attic somewhere, if you've got a few other Zigbee gadgets in the middle, they'll pass the message along. This is really neat stuff. It's really cool, and this is the way you set up a lot of fun home automation stuff. But for this one, all I needed was this outlet. I don't know how to do all these things in Home Assistant. It's not something I do every day. It's something I do when I need it. So I went into ChatGPT and I explained what I needed. I explained the problem, and I said, I want to be able to detect if this outlet senses more than 100 watts for more than 2 minutes, then the outlet will turn off. And then 10 minutes later, it'll turn on again so that we don't simply flood the basement because we turned our pump off. Maybe it needed to run over 2 minutes. I don't know. And ChatGPT was able to tell me exactly how I needed to set things up in Home Assistant, what the different UI screens look like, the different things I had to put in there, a couple small pieces of scripts I had to put in. It took me about an hour to get it all set up, but without having great depth of knowledge in everything about Home Assistant, it was able to walk me through everything. And in the end, I had a working solution. What I did was I set the threshold to 10 watts, and I plugged my office fan into the outlet. And I turned the fan on and watched with joy as the fan shut itself off 2 minutes later. And my watch got a small notification, Sump Pump is running too long. Just like the notification I showed you at the beginning of the video. And then 10 minutes later, the fan came back on. So it worked perfect. I then went and plugged the sump pump into this outlet and changed the threshold from 10 watts to 100 watts. Sump pump's going to draw a lot more than that. It draws about 700 watts, so there was no danger of it running long, but me never detecting it. And it's there right now. And my pump has been running every 10 or 15 minutes for the past week, and I have not run into the problem since. Now, I should point out something important. These outlets are rated at 15 amps. The pump is not drawing 15 amps, but motors have an inrush current and they require a different mechanism for starting them. You want to have contactors and things like that, or switches that are designed for a motor load. This is not designed for you to use it like on a schedule and turn it on, off. That's what the float switch is for. This guy is simply acting as an emergency shutoff so that when the pump runs too long, this will kill it. And because I put that start up in 10 minutes thing in there, once I start getting the notification, I'd better get over to the pump and figure out what's going on so that I don't cause problems with this. It'll work fine for a few cycles, but it's not designed to handle turning that pump on and off, on and off, on and off. So watch out for that. But otherwise, you can use these kind of devices to turn on and turn off things in your home, and you can use many different triggers that you wouldn't think of. I hope this video provides a little inspiration so you can start thinking about things besides colorful lights in your dining room or something. Home automation is really neat and can save you a whole lot of trouble. Now that my sump pump is working properly, I can stop worrying about it, and I can worry about other things that need my worrying time, like those taxes. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching.